plans for the Hester Memorial Home for the Aged.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You should have been an architect.
I never would have met you in anything half as honest as architecture. So now you're going to take my beautiful plans to another woman, huh?
Broadly speaking, the old girl is a woman, I suppose.
Well, why do your clients always have to be women?
My Carnation.
In a moment, you'll see how a single Carnation turned a confidence man's game into a nightmare for him, but a haven of mercy for scores of unfortunates.
Good afternoon, Bessie. I believe Mrs. Hester's expected.
Oh, she certainly is, Mr. Van Sutton.
You look blooming today.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Van Sutton. But just this afternoon at lunch, we girls were saying, isn't it nice Mr. Van Sutton is coming today? Oh, I do like to see a gentleman wearing a button-ear. We girls always say it's the mark of a gentleman.
Thank you, Bessie.
Right this way. She's in the large parlor.
And feeling well, I trust?
Oh, yes. She's having her uppities today.
Her uppities?
You know, everybody has their ups and downs, and when they're feeling up, you say they're having their uppities.
I do.
Mr. Van Sutton is here.
I needn't have asked, Bessie, how you felt, Mrs. Hester. You look wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you, Mr. Van Sutton. Bessie, stay. I may need you.
I wasn't leaving.
I hope you've been giving my project some further thought.
I have.
Well, should you decide to sponsor this fine charity, here are the completed sketches of the Hester Memorial Home for the Aged.
Oh, that won't do. That won't do at all.
You don't like it?
Oh, the sketch is splendid. It's the inscription that won't do. I want this to be known as the Cyrus Hester Memorial Home.
Oh, of course, in memory of your good husband.
I'm afraid he wasn't always as good as he might have been. Brilliant, perhaps, and with a fine capacity for leadership and making money, but, no, never a very good man.
Tell the truth. He was an old scoundrel. When he was alive, nobody in this house ever had any uppities, just downsies.
That's why I've decided to go ahead with your charity project. I hope in a small way to make up for some of the unhappiness he caused in his lifetime.
I understand.
I expect to start this off with, maybe $100,000. However, I'm not as rich as people think, so I've decided to let my friends contribute. They'll be delighted if I ask it.
Well, I'm sure they will be. How could anyone refuse you anything?
Bessie, there'll be telephone calls to make and letters to write explaining the charity. And, oh yes, the press. We'll call the press.
Reporters in here? Oh, he'll hate that.
Leave them with me. I want to study them.
Of course.
And by the way, as long as we're going to be working so closely together, and this is such a large house, I think it would be a good idea if you just moved in here. Bessie would be considered an adequate chaperone, I feel sure.
I'll chaperone you, all right, but who'd chaperone me?
That's most kind of you. I'll have my things sent over from the hotel today. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Charles. You've given me a new interest in life.
Goodbye.
I'm not as rich as people think. You're not even as rich as Mr. Van Sutton thinks.
Come on, Laurie. I'll buy you lunch.
Thanks just the same.
What?
K-N-O-W, no. I'm after a very important interview.
Well...
One that's just as rare as your offer to buy my lunch. Mrs. Cyrus P. Hester.
You're kidding. What about?
Well, old Cyrus would probably turn over in his grave when I mention the word, but, charity.
Somebody's ribbing you.
That's what the lady said on the phone. Charity.
Well, don't drink any of her elderberry wine. The old man said he'd like to see all reporters, and you know where. Maybe she feels the same.
That wing is for the ladies, with the sunroom and the sewing room for all their little hobbies.
Well, it's the most wonderful project our city's ever had, Mrs. Hester.
I must give the credit to Charles. Mr. Van Sutton.
It was a labor of love. A lifelong dream come true. There are so many charities, never too many, of course, devoted to children and persons suffering with specific and more dramatic ailments. But very few of us ever stop to give thought to the predicament of those who are both poor and old, and perhaps ill as well. I think of my own late parents in such straits, and I am appalled.
It's a fine memorial to your husband, Mrs. Hester.
Well, yes.
These came in the afternoon mail.
What are they?
A donation for $35,000 from Mrs. Jackmont, and one for $18,785 from the Baker Martins.
$7.85. The Baker Martins can't forget they own a department store. Isn't it wonderful, though, to have such splendid friends? They've been coming in all day like this. Not large amounts, but they add up.
Oh, I'm amazed. I wonder if I might have a copy of these plans, Mrs. Hester.
Why?
Well, for the story, I want to run them to show people exactly what you're doing.
I think that would be lovely.
This is the only set we had. I can get you some copies later.
Well, I'll only need them for a day.
Then you must take them, of course. And thank you so much for coming over.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Mrs. Hester.
You're quite welcome.
Goodbye, Mr. Van Sutton.
Miss Kilburn,
Yes?
I have some business uptown. I can drive you back to your office.
Oh, that's very kind of you, but I have a friend's car.
Mr. Van Sutton is such a gentleman.
Yes. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Darling, your sketches did it.
Oh, I'm so happy. You promised me a celebration if it came off.
Well, I haven't got my hands on the money yet.
Well, that's all right. We'll have dinner here in my apartment then, huh?
Darling, I'm afraid I can't this evening. I've got to keep this thing rolling while the old girl's in the mood.
But Charlie...
Now, don't get upset. She insisted that I move into that horrible museum with her and that ancient companion. Well, it'll be a considerable saving. That hotel is expensive.
You could have effected the same saving by moving in here with me. I'd even buy the marriage license, you swindler.
I'll move in here when I can pay for it and support you, and not before. Oh, that reminds me. There's another problem I've got to take care of.
What?
Mrs. Hester gave those plans to a newspaper reporter.
To a newspaper reporter? Oh, the old fool. That could ruin everything.
I've got to try to get him back, I suppose.
Gee, I'm sorry, Mr. Van Sutton, but the plans went out to photo engraving an hour ago.
Well, couldn't we get them back?
Oh, well, doesn't Mrs. Hester want a story about her charity drive?
Well, it's quite all right about the story. It's just the plans. They haven't been approved by the board yet, and it would be premature to publish them.
Oh. Oh, well, I tell you what, I'll hold up on printing the plans until I hear from you or Mrs. Hester, and then I'll send back the originals tomorrow. Is that all right?
Well, yes, I suppose that would be all right. Yes, I'm sure it would be. And thank you, Miss Kilburn. Goodbye.
Oops. Sorry.
It's my fault.
Looks like I flattened your posy.
That's quite all right.
I'll thank you not to ruffle my admirers, Wilson.
Admire. Kilburn got a new policy? Cradle to the grave?
If it's good enough for the government, it's good enough for Kilbourne.
Don't I know that character?
Oh, I doubt it. Different social strata. Mrs. Hester's business manager in this charity project, Charles Van Sutton. Doesn't he dress beautifully?
Got the interview, huh? Was that charity business on the level?
On the level right here in my desk. I mean, right here in the photo engraving department are the plans and sketches for $1 million building I hope I'm lucky enough to get into when the press turns me out to pastor.
Bring him in. Cyrus P. Hester Memorial Home for the Aged. Well, it proves one thing.
What?
There was nothing wrong with the old rascal's heart that a good stroke wouldn't cure. Who's this architect? Stetson Floyd.
I don't know, but he's good.
Not bad at all. Except something about it is mighty familiar. Satakoy.
Huh?
They wanted you to publish these?
Well, Mrs. Hester did. Van Sutton wasn't exactly enthusiastic. That's why I was here. Why?
You should read the real estate section. We published these plans a month ago.
The Hester plans?
Somebody's pulling somebody's leg. These are the new plans for the Satakoy Springs Hotel in Miami, copied right down to the last swimming pool. Only they call it hydrotherapy. Laurie. Laurie, I got him.
Oh, who? What?
That carnation in his buttonhole that I flattened.
Mr. Van Sutton?
He's a crook.
A crook? Why, that charity project is his lifetime dream.
A patsy like Mrs. Hester is his lifetime dream.
Well, who is he?
10 years ago, he was a con man named Carnation Charlie. Now he's in a Blue Book crowd. He's probably changed it to Carnation Charles. But I'll bet he's still a con man. Come on.
To upset you, Mrs. Hester, but we thought you ought to know.
Mr. Van Sutton's a gentleman, no matter what you say. You can always tell a gentleman by his button ear.
In his case, you can tell he's a crook by his button there. It's his trademark. I sat in on his trial 10 years ago when he was convicted of fraud. Something involving an elderly couple's life savings.
Maybe he's reformed.
If you remember, he said he had some things in his past that he regretted, and by devoting himself to this old folks' home, he's trying to make some sort of amends.
Why, that's right, Bessie. I remember telling him that I felt the same way about Cyrus. My husband did many harsh things in his life, Mr. Wilson. I hope to atone for them with this memorial. I can't refuse Mr. Van Sutton the same chance.
This chance involves quite a bit of money.
No temptation is being placed in his path. I handle all the funds. He insisted.
I'm relieved to hear of it.
So let's not accuse him until he commits a wrong.
Then we can start right now with these plans.
What about them?
We published them last month as the plans for a health resort. Mr. Van Sutton borrowed them, and that's a little bit illegal.
Bessie, the letter's on the desk. This letter is from the architect and owner of the Satakoy Resort, giving us permission to use the plans. Mr. Van Sutton felt they so nearly suited our needs.
Shall I show them to the door?
Don't be rude, Bessie. I'm sure they were leaving anyway.
I should have told you, I suppose. I shouldn't have waited for outsiders to come bearing tales.
Yes, you should have.
I was afraid, I guess. Have you any idea how much this thing we're doing together means to me?
I think I have.
Now to have to leave it, just as it's nearing fulfillment.
I haven't said you must leave it.
No, you've got to drop me. Others will find out. Your friends. I'm not going to let you jeopardize the home.
If you want to stay, I'm willing to take the risk. Charles.
Mary.
It's about time you called me Mary. I've enjoyed having you here. I don't want you to go.
I won't hold still for it, Charlie.
Oh, Elsa, don't be ridiculous.
Disgusting.
disgusting and it's sickening. The thought of you making love to that old lady.
You jealous of that museum piece? I thought you'd find it funny.
I'm jealous of what you've got in your mind.
What's that?
Marrying her for her money. What did you think you were going to do with me?
How could that possibly affect our status? I'm staying there now. We'll just go on a little longer till I can transfer some of her assets to her husband's name.
I won't share you. Not even with an old woman. Not after all I've done for you. No, I won't stand for it.
What do you want me to do?
Let's take the money that's already in and get out of here.
It's only a couple of $100,000.
That's all right. It's enough for me if we're together.
It's not enough for me. Not when there's $1 million in the offing.
I won't let you do it, Charlie. Remember, right now the police are looking for 3 different men under 3 different names. I can prove that all 3 of them are you.
And you?
Don't smile, Charlie. If I have to, I can keep you from marrying her.
Laurie, have you heard from Mrs. Hester lately?
No, not in the last few days.
I thought she was going to let us know when we could use those plans.
Well, I'll call her. I thought you had lost interest in the project.
I just got a letter that gave my interest a new charge.
So?
I wrote to that Satakoy Springs outfit just to make sure that they gave Van Sutton permission to use the plans.
And?
They never heard of Van Sutton.
He didn't ask to use them?
Somebody else did, but they turned her down. A gal named Elsa Ronay.
Well, maybe that's Mrs. Hester's nom de charity.
No, this Ronay character used to work for him. They gave me her last known address here in town.
Get your hat.
Miss Ronay?
Wonder if she's home.
She is. Better wait outside, Laurie. Operator, police headquarters, emergency. Lieutenant Jameson.
Yes, Steve. Uh-oh. I'll be right over. Wait. What are you and Laurie doing there?
Checking on another story, but they turn out to be the same story. You can save yourself a lot of trouble if you pick up a fancy pants character by the name of Carnation Charlie. What? Goodbye.
What were you yelling at Jameson about?
Mrs. Hester just phoned the bunco squad. Charlie's gone south with the old folks home. $300,000 worth of it anyway.
I'm so glad you stopped by. I tried to phone you when I called the police. Charles, Mr. Van Sutton is gone.
I know, with the money. You told the police he'd been gone for a couple of days. Why didn't you call us then?
I have some chores, some errands to do, Mrs. Hester.
It's all right, Bessie. Go ahead. I'll be all right. I kept hoping he'd come back. I prayed that he hadn't betrayed me. Maybe he'll still come back. But I knew it was my duty to report him. Why didn't I listen to you when you warned me?
They'll catch him.
You don't think he'll do the right thing and just come back?
No, I don't think so.
Mrs. Hester, did you know he had a girlfriend?
Wilson, please. She's had enough troubles.
Another woman. Yes, I must admit, sometimes I suspected that there was someone else. She left with him, I suppose.
She left, but not with him. He murdered her. That's why I don't think you'd better expect him back.
We can't keep this out of the papers, Mrs. Hester. You understand?
I understand. I guess I'd just as soon my friends found out about it that way as any other. I'm not as rich as people think, you know. I don't know if I can pay them all back.
Maybe he'll still have the money when they catch him. We'd better go, Laurie. What's that?
Just Bessie in the basement. She's so noisy.
Goodbye, Mrs. Hester. Ouch. Well, it's just Bessie.
Bessie's in the basement.
Bessie's at the door.
Is that you, Bessie? Did you bring the flower for Mr.
She's bringing it now, Mrs. Hester.
Oh,
Shall we take it to him?
what do you mean?
Charlie, Carnation Charlie, where is he? In the basement.
It's just Bessie! In the basement! It's Bessie! It's only Bessie! It's just Bessie!
Van Sutton.
No, I don't. Get me out of here.
I'll get you out of here. What'd you do with the money?
I never had the poison.
Who poisoned you?
She did, Mrs. Hester. Get me to the doctor. She poisoned me.
That is true. It's true. I never thought you'd find him.
Laurie, call a doctor. Get hold of Lieutenant Jameson. Which one of you killed Elsa Ronay?
He did. I never heard of her until today. Poor Charles. He didn't know that I had no intention of marrying him. I knew from the very first the kind of man he was. I sought him out.
What were you after?
The money. I know you'll find this hard to understand, Mr. Wilson. But I intended to kill Charles and keep the money. So that my friends wouldn't find out I didn't have any. I couldn't let them know. For years, Bessie and I have been living on what she's saved as my servant.
Laurie.
What?
Come sit on my desk.
Oh, sure. You lonesome?
Hold that.
Oh. Now I'm a paperweight. What are they?
New plans and sketches for the Hester Home for the Aged.
Kidding. Carnation Charlie on the loose again?
He won't be on the loose for another 99 years if he can live that long, on half a stomach and a bad case of the downsies. Mrs. Hester conned her friends into letting their donations stand and going ahead with the project.
Oh, you're kidding.
When she and Bessie get out of woman's prison, they'll have a place to live and grow carnations.